This is Aaron Shedlock. You're listening to the audio flow.
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 You're listening to the audio flow with Jacques. Listening to audiobooks never sounded so good.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Audio Flow. I'm your host, Jacques, and let me tell you, we are finally here at the end of 2017, and we are ready to count down the top 10 audiobooks of 2017. Joining me this year for this awesome event is Viviana Izzo. I'm sorry, I'm going to mess that up.
Yep.
Fun chick. Viviana Fun Chick, according to Felicia. See, that's what I should have went with anyway, because the whole tongue twisting thing. And I'm looking right how I wrote it down. Izzo.
Yep.
I got it. Viviana Izzo.
Got it.
Who is also the enchantress of books. Hi, Viviana. How's it going?
Great. Excited to be here. Thanks for including me.
And you are so welcome. And of course, we welcome back Felicia, who is the geeky blogger. And if you are not following any of these persons on Twitter or Facebook, you have to. And I would just say, Felicia, I am in love with geek shots. So I'm just, putting that out there. I love those. How are you doing today? Felicia? Everybody, in case you didn't know, so this is the thing when you're doing group chats and stuff, there's always bound to be some tech issue. And Felicia is our tech person, and she's having the tech problem. So, I mean, like, go figure.
Yeah.
But
I mention I'm on vacation? That is the reason.
Oh, okay. So all your tech skills go out the door when you're on vacation. Got it.
Right. They'll return January 2nd.
Okay, we got it.
Oh, how nice. I want to be on vacation.
I know, right? I know. Well, Felicia, welcome to the show. So excited to have you here. And then we have Anna from Anna's Attic. Hi, Anna. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks.
Good,
Thanks for
good.
having me.
You are so welcome. Okay, so ladies, while we've got a pretty decent internet connection, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I cannot wait to hear what you guys listened to this year, why it was at the top of your list, why it rated, and really why I should save up my credits to go buy and pick up those books, especially as the new year is rolling around. And so Felicia actually decided that she wanted to go first. So I'm excited to hear what made your list, Felicia. So let's start with your number 10.
All right. Well, I didn't actually put mine in any order, so I'm just going to go through them as they're up on my screen. So
Okay, that works
these
too.
they're all just equal in my book.
Okay.
So The Duchess Still by Tessa Dare, narrated by Mary Jane Wells. If you are into historical romance, this was a top read for me in 2017. It was so good. It just has everything a historical romance should have. Humor. It had a really dashing guy and a really headstrong female, and that just kind of always woos me. So if you are a historical romance fan, I highly recommend The Duchess Still.
Would you recommend that? Would you recommend that book to somebody who has not yet tapped into historical romance?
I absolutely would, because it Tessa Dare is really good about writing heroines that buck the system. Mm-hmm. So that spans all time frames. And the fact that these women had to buck the system even more because women didn't really have rights makes it that much more fun.
Okay.
And so, yeah, definitely. This one spans genres, I think, but in the aspect that you get a duchess, and she is a duchess.
Okay. I'm writing it down. Okay.
And my next one is So I Married a Sorcerer by Carolyn Sparks, narrated by Jill Tanner. And this is a paranormal romance fantasy type of book. And if you seriously, guys, I don't want to give anything away. So I'm just going to say this guy, there is a cave scene everybody will want to listen to, read.
Okay, wait,
whatever.
say the name again.
Everybody's taking notes now.
What was that?
So I Married a Sorcerer by Carolyn Sparks. And no, just it was fantastic. This is the second book in the series, but you don't need to read the first book in order to read it. But yeah, there is a cave scene everybody needs to listen to.
Yeah, I'm like, you had me at cave. Thank you.
It's fantasy, so it's not set in this time. So
That's
I'm just
totally
going to
fine.
say it's got a waterfall, and yeah, just amazing. So next is White Trash Zombie Unchained by Diana Rowland, narrated by Alison McLemore. And honestly, with White Trash Zombie Unchained, it is the last book in this series, and I actually suggest you read or listen to the whole series. It is, if you like zombies who are thinking. She works in a morgue. She's and this came out before iZombie did. So she is just a great heroine. She has so much growth over this series, but in this one, I'm just gonna say Biggie and Tupac, the two crocodiles, kind of steal the show. And it really, really is a great series. It's got lots of humor, lots of fun, great mystery. Wildfire by Iona Andrews, narrated by Renee Rodman. He really is hot, and it's got great action, great whatever. It's more urban fantasy than paranormal romance, even though that's what it's labeled. And it just is. He's just hot. No, the series itself is a trilogy, and I'm really hoping this is not the last book in the series, but it really is just great urban fantasy, even though it's labeled under paranormal romance.
Okay.
So
I like it. Anybody that's hot, anytime somebody can say somebody is hot that many times, so I don't even know what the book is about.
I think if you talk to anybody who's read this trilogy, that is exactly how they'll describe Mad Rogan every time. My next book is actually Sugared by Jamie Farrell, narrated by Karen White. And this is the Misfits Bride series. It actually came out last year, but I just listened to all of them this year. And this was absolutely my favorite because of the leading lady, oddly. She is the kind that when she gets nervous, she just spouts off random stuff, and it doesn't make sense at all. And it was so fun because the leading guy saw past that. And, but I mean, she would be like giving random, kind of like that little boy from, whatever, the Renee Zellweger movie, the one where he would just spout off about the brain size and that kind of thing.
Was that Jamie Maguire? Was it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it really is a fun series. The entire series is completely fun, and you can read each one individually. It doesn't have to be a series read. And now I am back to historical.
Okay. Give me historical.
Six Impossible Things by Elizabeth Boyle, narrated by Susan Dwurden, except that I probably am not saying her name right. She's headstrong, outspoken, his secrets, and she is smart as a whip, and it was fun because he absolutely was like stubborn, and she won him over without even trying. And so it really was a great book. I know, I can hear it. I don't drink coffee, so we're going with this.
Do you have a book about coffee in there?
I'm sorry. I slept 3 hours last night. I can't stay away.
I'm like, go ahead.
I walked away from the coffee maker while it's spitting out my coffee. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, that's hard.
That's quite all right. That's just funny because I don't drink coffee. I go into Starbucks to smell coffee. I just don't drink it.
That's weird.
So the next book that I really loved is back in the urban fantasy genre, and it's Silence Fallen by Patricia Briggs, narrated by Laura Lee King and George Newbern. Now, this has audiobook people torn because never has Adam actually been narrated before. Nor has he actually had a point of view. So I thought George did a great job. And but the timetable in this book is weird, but I loved it.
Wait, explain that. Can you explain that again? Say
Yeah.
that one more time.
So in Silence Fallen, it's the first time, this is book 10 in the series. This is the first time Adam has really had a point of view. And the audiobook world was torn because Laura Lee King has done this by herself for 9 books. And then they put a guy in there for book 10. I actually thought he did a great job. Now, granted, I'm a George Newbern fan, so maybe that's where it comes from. But I liked having his voice in there. So
is that the way the book, did the books change like that as well, though?
Yes. So
it's not just the audiobook. I mean, then if the actual book changed that way, they kind of, you know. Okay.
So this is the first time they haven't been together and seen the entire book. So and if you listen to the book or read the book, it makes sense. They're apart for a reason. But it's really kind of funny. The reason I picked this one was because the entire series, people are all like, I love Adam, I love Adam, I love Adam. And I'm like, yeah, he's okay. And this book made me understand why people love Adam. And without his point of view, I would have never gotten it. So I recommend the Mercy Thompson series by Patricia Briggs.
Oh, I only read like the first 5 of those years ago. So I might go back to that. I haven't thought about listening to it.
Yeah. Listen to it. Laura Lee King does a great job.
Okay, good.
Okay. And then my last book is a paranormal romance series that is totally funny. And the reason I'm saying this all before I give you the name is because you have to know that there's Valkyries and crows and all sorts of things. It's the Call of Crows series by Shelley Lawrence, narrated by Joanna Parker. And these girls, they are snarky, smartassy.
So I know, right?
Men have to work for them. I mean, like, seriously work for them. I mean, it's fantastic. These women can kill something without looking and then go back to worrying about whether or not they chipped an L. I mean, this is a great series. So
I love that.
I absolutely recommend it. And there are my top 10.
Okay, say the title of that one again, please. The last one.
Well, the last one is the Call of Crows series. My favorite in the series is the book 3, The Unyielding. But seriously, it's by Shelley Lawrence. Joanna Parker does a great job on the narration, and it is fun.
See, I think when you told me you didn't really have an order, I think you might have subconsciously put them in order. Because you said, this is my favorite, and, you said favorite twice, which means that you really liked it a lot. So, yeah.
I did. I would have to say that it and the Tessa Dare books, I probably started and ended on my 2 favorites of the year.
Okay, good. Well,
did I mention The Day of the Duchess by Sarah McLean?
Yes.
Okay.
You did that one first, I think.
No, the Tessa Dare book was first, but in case that one's in there too. It was a really good historical romance too.
Is that your honorable mention?
Well, I think that was actually 10.
Okay.
So that's my 10.
That's your 10. Thank you. All right. So, Felicia, before we move on and get Anna's 10, please tell everybody how they can find you or keep up with you, know what's going on, so they can check out Geek Shots and all that good stuff too, and see what the Geeky Blogger is up to in 2018.
Honestly, if you just search you will find me across all things. Easy to find.
She's easy to find, everybody. That's just how much everybody knows her. Just Google. Look, just say Google me. It's Google me. All right. Well, thank you.
Geeky Blogger, I have claimed it on everything.
Well, good. That's how you do. You put your stamp on everything, right?
Yep.
So, even those bath bombs you make, did you put Geeky Blogger on there too?
Actually, those are going to be best to best, but yes.
Okay, yeah. I follow that too. So, yeah, I'm following you everywhere. I'm kind of a secret stalker. Or yeah. It's not a secret anymore since I just told you. But
That's okay. Everybody can stalk me.
all right, well, I've got some of your books on my list that I want to check out, and now let's go over to Anna's
Anna's Attic book
Attic
blog.
book
Yes.
blog, so we can
Yes.
find out how your year was in audio. And I know earlier you had asked me if the books needed to release this year, and technically yes, but if you throw some in there that you listened to that did not release this year and just have to make your list, please by all means share those with us too.
I am so glad I didn't know that rule because 2 of mine released last year.
Well, that's
It's
why
okay.
I asked, 'cause probably my top 2 are older books that I re-listen to,
Okay.
which I love to do. When I find that I'm a little bit busier and might not have the attention span that I'd like, but I still want to listen to an audiobook, I like to pick out a favorite and re-listen to it.
I am the same way. I'm
Yeah.
a huge re-listener.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also a Kristen Ashley fanatic. So
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
You're speaking to the choir.
So I re-listened to a lot of hers, and they will always be on my favorites list. But I'm only going to name the ones that came out this year.
Okay.
But I do want to give a mention to Fisher's Light by Tara Sivek, because it was a favorite, I think, from 2016 that I read. And then I listened to it again this year, and it was Andy Arndt and Zachary Weber, and they just did a phenomenal job with it.
What's the name of the book?
So, Fisher's Light
Okay.
by Tara Sivek.
Okay. I think I just saw that came up as a recommendation. Okay.
Yeah, it was a good one.
All right.
Okay.
All right. You got the floor, babe.
I'm going to start out, and this is in absolutely no order. It's just I actually did a search on my blog for like 5 stars, and it's the order that they came up in.
Oh, boo. So you guys, let me tell you.
I listened to you. I did it in order.
Okay, because I'm like, I done struggled to try to put these in order. And there's no order. I like them all equally the same.
I can't. I couldn't pick a favorite. I don't think. I'm not really. This is killing me.
Well, to be honest, I only had 3 5s, so I actually just picked out of my 4s that I like the best too.
Oh,
yeah, a lot of these are like 4 3/4. I mean, I'm kind of so picky.
I don't even consider the stars. It's all about how you connected with it. So I'm totally fine with that. And plus I get recommendations from you guys, especially from authors or narrators that I'm not familiar with. So this is really a selfish podcast. It's really for me. And if other people happen to listen and get something out of it, then great. But anyway, okay, carry on.
Okay. We'll start off with Cuffed by Kay Bromberg. This was narrated by Joe Arden and Maxine Mitchell, and they made the story better. There's some narrators that they don't add to the story, they don't detract from it, but I think they actually made it better. There's something about both of them that I don't take their characters from one book to another. They embody the character that they're doing at that moment. Some other ones kind of carry over qualities from a previous book I've heard them in. But these guys are always like a new character in every time. So I love that about them. The thing about Cuffed was, if you look at the cover and you read the blurb, it seems like a light and fun romantic comedy, but it's not. It was a real serious book that at times, I mean, there was laugh out loud moments, there were ugly cry moments, it was swoony, it was emotional, it was funny, it was heartbreaking, it just kind of had everything. So I would say that was probably, I can't name them in order. I'm trying to say it's my favorite, but I'll say that every one of them.
You don't have to. We get it.
Okay. And while we're on Kay Bromberg, I'll also probably say the Player and the Catch series by Kay Bromberg. It's a duet narrated by Andy Arndt and Joe Arden.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one I didn't like as much as the second one because I thought it could end. I didn't think it needed to go to a second book, but then once I got the second book, it was phenomenal. Like the first book was from her point of view, kind of, and the second one was from his, and together it was amazing. It was a highly recommended. I don't like sports romances because I just don't like sports, but I loved this, and it was about a baseball player.
You don't like sports. What's wrong with you? No,
so I'm just not a sports girl.
I'm just kidding. But okay, so that's a sports book. You said baseball, so
yeah, baseball romance.
I'm gonna write that one down too because I think that one came across in a recommendation for me too on Audible, so I should probably check that out. Okay. Writing notes.
Next would be the Preppy series by T.M. Frazier.
Yes.
All of the King series, Preppy, all of them are phenomenal on audiobook. They're so gritty and so intense, and Preppy was narrated by Lance Greenfield and Kirsten Lee. I love them. They were just perfect. And only 2 and 3 came out in 2017, but I love all of them.
Yeah.
I have to say Lance Greenfield is a new to me narrator, and I am in love with him.
Yes.
He's great.
It's about his tone, and like I agree. Anna, the Preppy series, so it was a back and forth thing with a lot of listeners too about could he pull it off, because Rob Shapiro, of course, did the King and had his own version of Preppy, and then Lance got Preppy, but he did such a good job with the emotional parts of the character and the story that, man. And of course I'm in love with Kirsten. She's another girl crush of mine. So but I agree 1000%, if there was such a thing, that that definitely makes a list. Okay.
All right, good. My next book, which is Complicated by Kristen Ashley. And Kristen actually came out with this. This was one of those direct to Audible. So Audible had an exclusive for 6 months, which was great because I think it brought a lot of new people to Audible. All the Kristen Ashley fans that had never listened to audio. I think it brought a lot of new people over.
Is that the one he narrated with Aaron?
Yes. It was Lance Greenfield and Aaron Mallon.
Okay.
The only thing that bothered me a little bit in this one for some reason is I didn't like him sped up. I sped him up too much. Anything Kristen Ashley and audio, all of her.
That means normal. It was just a good story.
Right. And I think people that listened to it on audio first actually liked it better than the readers that waited for the book to come out. From what I saw.
I will say this. Okay, so I'm gonna Complicated wasn't my favorite by her, but I liked the lead guy a lot better with Lance narrating him than when I reread it.
Exactly.
I was like, no. I need Lance. I need Lance because he's annoying as hell if Lance isn't narrating him.
I agree on that. I didn't like it as much. I read it after, and I didn't like it as much, but I loved it when I listened to it.
But I think that's the trick of getting a really good narrator is that sometimes they can give that character that buffer to make the reader/listener really fall for them. Because I've had sometimes where I picked up the book and I've had to put it down because I just cannot get into it. Yeah. And then when I get the audiobook, I'm like, yay. So.
Yeah, it's a whole different attitude.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to listen to the hookup now. I mean, I read the hookup first and I'm going to listen to it next. And I'm so excited because the hookup
I'm listening to it now. Yeah.
I only listened to it and I did it the day it came out and I finished the day it came out. That's all I'm going to say.
I read it already and I read it and reviewed it already and that's my favorite of the year.
And with her, it's always how her lead females are and I loved this lead female.
Yeah, that's what it's all about for me. I have to love the lead female to love a book.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Because there have been books you listen to or read and you're like, I just don't like her. and I can't finish it. I just can't. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
tried, but it's like I don't like you, and why are you so stupid? But of course, I understand.
But Kristen, but she has a great gift of being able to write these strong women that other women can relate to and not get that negative vibe about them, you know?
Right.
And it's on the
Right.
contrary, you kind of want to be like, hey, I want to be like her.
You want to
Right.
be friends with them.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
I want to be. That's how I fall in love with a book. If they're
Mhm.
people I want to hang out with,
Mhm.
then that's what makes me love a book.
Yeah.
Most
I
of the time,
agree.
unless it's just really hot.
Right. And then you don't want to hang out with the guy. You want to do some other things besides hang out. Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That'll move me to the next one. Take Me
Okay.
Back by Megan March. That was narrated by Annie Arndt and Zachary Weber. I do kind of feel like, because I listen to mostly contemporary, she's very overused. I think it's getting to the point where I'm taking her character from one story into the next, and it's starting to bother me a little bit. So I avoided it for a little while. Avoided reading her a little while because, again, some of her characters were sticking with her. Sometimes there's just too much same couplings going on in the contemporary romance world. When you just went through your paranormal list and your historical list, they were all never.
I jump around a lot, so it's kind of funny, but I cannot listen to the same narrator back to back in two different series.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I have to skip, and once in a while, like I don't realize if they're using the same. Sometimes I forget that it's the same person, just a different name. And I've made that mistake a couple times of bringing it forward and like, oh wait, wrong. I'm thinking of one book and.
Well, and if you tune out for like 5 seconds, you come back and you're expecting a different hero, and you're like, where'd he go? And who was that?
Exactly.
That's funny. That's true and funny at the same time.
But yet I'm finding, this is going off my list, but just something I want to mention is Sierra Simone's American Queen series. I listened to the first two. The third one hasn't come out yet. It's killing me. For some reason, everyone loves that series, and it's got everything I love about it, but I had trouble focusing on the Audible of it. And I noticed that happens sometimes. There's just certain books that just don't transfer quite as well to audio, and some are better on audio. That particular series, I wish I read it rather than listened, and that's probably the only one, because that's one that I know I should love and would have loved if I read it, but I just felt myself zoning out a lot during it.
Yeah, me with Cowboys. Because I'm from West Texas, I just can't. So I'm
not a big Cowboy fan. So, okay. Gonna move on to, so I said Take Me Back by Megan March. I love that one. It was very unique. It was one thing about that one, Take Me Back, is if you're going to read any reviews of it, don't. Just go in and do it. That's one that you don't want to read any spoilers. There was a lot of twists and turns, and you don't want to know anything about it. That's when you want to go in blind.
Go in blind. Got it.
Yep. Pucked Off by Helena Hunting. I love all of her books. And shameless plug here, you can meet Helena over at Wicked Book Weekend in April in Fort Lauderdale.
Yay! Wait, a cue clapping effect, and it's clapping for you because Okay.
Okay, that was narrated by Rose Dioro and Jacob Morgan, and they did an amazing job. He did a Scottish accent. I don't know if it was really a Scottish sounding accent or not, but it kind of sounded like French and Irish mix, but it totally worked. It was sexy. It was, I've never heard anybody speak with a Scottish accent, so I wouldn't have known if it was right or not. But he did an accent the whole time, and I loved it. So that was fun. And that was just a fun and emotional book at the same time. Next is going to come. These are tied for me, so I'm just going to say any of Lauren Blakely's male point of view books with Sebastian York narrating. Oh my God. That's all I'm going to say. I love every one of them. I fall in love with the guys. They're my all-time favorites. The male point, they're Lauren Blakely's books, like Big Rock, is probably the one that I would recommend for someone's first time listening to an audiobook.
Yeah.
Just Sebastian York is so hot.
He's so hot. He's
let's
so
just
hot
say
right
that-
now.
Well, and it's interesting because that's actually my number 8 says anything by Lauren Blakely. LOL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is funny, which might get me shot in this group. Sebastian York is kind of mid-grade for me, but I do like his voice.
No,
I feel like there should be one discerning voice here. And I mean, I love his voice, don't get me wrong, but it's so funny because everybody's like, Sobo. And I'm like, yeah, he's good.
But you know what? It's the combination of Sebastian York and Lauren Blakely's match.
Yeah.
That, I've heard Sebastian York in other ones that I'm not in love with him.
Yeah,
but I haven't listened to those, so maybe I should put those on my list.
And that's I'm the
it's
same
that
way.
Because
everybody's
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Everybody's, he's their favorite, and I've had this discussion with other people, and I'm like, he does certain roles very well, and anytime he does Lauren's books, it just works. It's a combination of her writing and his tone, and he doesn't have to have different dialects. He doesn't have to do much with his voice. It's really just him. And also in those earlier Emma Chase books like Tangled, also Sustained.
I love him in those too.
It's just his attitude, and
he has a great comedic timing.
Yes, he does, Anna.
And he plays a sarcastic, guy that
he does it very well.
Cocky guy. But he
with a sense of humor.
It's dry.
He's very respectful to women, though. At least in Lauren's books. So to me, I can't really even separate her men from his voice.
Yeah.
They become almost one to me, and just the maturity and the way all of her male characters treat women as equals, and they care about the careers and everything. Always, it just Sebastian works for that. Between his comedy timing and
well, good to know.
Yes, Felicia, you need to just.
It's because I don't listen to a lot of contemporary romance. I clearly haven't listened to the right one.
That's right.
Throaty voice, and so when he does the narration with Lauren's books lately, there's been a kid or a daughter or a little kid, like a boy and stuff like that. And he actually, the timing on how he does the kids too is great.
He does kids great. Everything.
Yeah. Well, hell, he does cats great. I think in one of the books he has meow. And I'm texting Lauren. I'm going, Sebastian York, meowed.
I know, right? I was like, he makes such a good cat.
He does. It was great.
The cat knew first.
What I love about Lauren's book, especially her POVs from the male side of things, is like, like Anna said, the women are, still strong, still independent, and it's the hero realizing that as a reason why they fall for the woman.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. And she doesn't dump down the guys either. The guys are extremely smart. They're business owners. And they know that they look good. And that's the other thing too. It's that blend.
They're cocky, but they're not, they start out a little bit jerky about it, but they end up always just having so much respect for the women. I love that.
And they're funny.
Yeah.
So I love I love that it's comedy and you still get the warm fuzzies, and you're kind of like, that was a nice book. And but I have a Sebio book on my list that's not it's not a rom-com. So yay.
I mean, there are some that I love by him that's not romantic comedy, but I prefer him, I think, in the comedy.
Oh yeah, me
role.
too. But I can't wait to share what my number 2 is.
Yes.
I'm excited to hear it. I got a couple more that I'll get through quick. This one's a YA book, which I very rarely read. Autobiography by Christina Lauren, narrated by Deacon Lee and Kyle Mason. It's actually a male young adult book. So it was a very, very different book for me because I don't normally read male, and I don't normally read young adult, but I loved it. It was unique. It was different. They were in, it took place in the Mormon community. So to be young and gay in the Mormon community, it was just a complete departure for me. And it was great. The narration was great. There was a little bit of issues for me, because it was narrated by two different men. I liked one of the narrators more than the other. Then it went also to third person. So there was like two different men and then a third person, which got a little confusing. But then there was an interview at the end of the audiobook with the narrators. And they kind of explained what was going on and why they did it that way. And it made me love it even more. So if you decided to listen to it, definitely listen to the interview at the end. It made it super special. So, Easy Magic, the Bordeaux series by Kristen Proby. It was actually the first Kristen Proby book I've read, and I never start a series in the middle. But I think they sent me a code for this, so I said, all right, I'll listen, and absolutely loved it. It was narrated by Rachel Fulginiti and Zachary Weber. And
I love Rachel.
She had a really strong Southern accent. Does she have one in real life, like in other books?
No, not all. In fact,
No.
she does the Kristen Proby series where she has a New Orleans accent.
That's what she did. She had that's
The
what I'm
New
talking
Orleans.
about. She had, but it's like Southern New Orleans.
She's from the West Coast, actually. She's from California.
Yeah. She does a really great New Orleans accent in that series. I like that series a lot.
Yeah, that's what made me actually love it. But Zachary Weber is also from New Orleans, and he didn't do an accent.
I will tell you that it's all the male narrators. I think it was Zachary and Sebastian were the two main narrators. Neither one of them does an accent. And in that series, it's interesting because the characters are from New Orleans. So
yes, and it annoyed the hell out of me.
Yeah,
because she did it really well, and then they didn't do it at all. Not even
he did a couple of words that he would do with a New Orleans accent, but that bothered me about that as far as the audio goes. I loved hers, but I felt like he needed to do a little more of an accent. At least they should have had the same amount of accent. She could have done a little less to make it a little more even, but I loved it, and it was a little bit of paranormal, a little bit of psychic stuff going on. So that was a fun one for me. I'm going to quickly mention Royally Screwed by Emma Chase.
Yay.
Narrated by Andy Arndt and Shane East. I love
that series.
Yeah, all three of them. Anything by Emma Chase, I love. That one was a real fun series. I loved it. It was romantic. It was sexy. It was funny. It was kind of like a big epic romance, and princes and princesses. How could you not love that?
Yeah,
that
series being made from Passionflix, right? It got bought into.
Yes, I think it is. Yeah,
I'm loving that.
Last I have to name is the one I just recently finished, and I can't do a list without this one being on it. Is Darker. 50 Shades Darker.
50 Shades Darker.
But it's told by Christian Grey, so Darker. Actually.
Darker.
Sorry, not 50 Shades Darker. It was narrated by Zachary Weber. Now, again, this is a weird one because I listened to Grey, and I never read it. I only listened to it. And that was, I think, the first real sexy book that I was able to get through and not giggle or get embarrassed, because gosh, Zachary Weber doing Christian Grey was just so hot. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. Mm-hmm. And so this time I decided I wasn't going to read it. I was just going to listen. Personally, I think his makes it better. I never liked it as much reading it, just regular reading it. I read the series years ago, but I've watched the movie several times. I'm involved in the 50 Shades community. I got a little bit confused listening to it because I had just watched the movie recently, mm-hmm. and it's his point of view of the second book rather than of the movie. So you think of, the movie's fresh in my mind and the book isn't. and the scenes are obviously going to be different. So there was a little bit of oh, I forgot about that. You know, it was actually a little fresher to me. I don't know how fresh the scenes were, though, how much of it was just a recap from a different point of view and how much was new.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed very much hearing his point of view of it. The first hour or two is so crazy intense, you can't stop listening. I mean, there's like, I just sat there. Usually I do something else while I'm listening, but that first hour or two, I just like sat there staring at my computer screen and not doing anything else. Like I was so intensely focused on it. It was one of the most intense hours or hour or two I've listened to in a book.
And did you start listening to it when the book released on the 28th?
Darker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I grabbed it that day.
Yeah, because it took you about the same amount of time. It took me 3 weeks to listen to the whole book. So,
oh no, I mean, no, it took me. I listened to that. It was long. It was like 19 hours.
It's pretty long. But the first one was
me
long too. I just went back and saw that Gray was. But for me, for Gray, I went through Gray a lot faster than I did through Darker. It took me forever to get through that audiobook.
I thought the beginning was really intense, and then it kind of slowed down a little bit for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I still loved hearing it from his point of view. It did not take me that long to listen to. But for me, it also depends on what else is going on, is how much I can listen.
Yeah.
So it did take me a little longer than most, but again, 19 hours versus 8 hours.
Yes.
The average audiobook.
Right.
So, which is one of the things that, everybody talks about how they left out parts of the movie. But if you think about the movie, the books are each about 22 hours.
Right.
They can't make a 22-hour movie.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I think as audiobook listeners, we understand a little bit more why they have to cut so much from a movie, because you can't have a 22-hour movie.
All I know is I was waiting. I just wanted to hear the spreader bar scene in the audio. So I just was like, how many hours do I have to listen before I get to that part?
Was it ever in it? I don't think
it was in there. It was in
there.
Yeah,
it was. You're right. But
and
that was much harder to watch. I gotta tell you.
Exactly. Because I'm sitting there and I'm like listening to him like describe what's going on, and then in my head, all I'm thinking is what was happening in the movie. So
right.
I was really torn when I was listening to this audiobook between listening to Zachary, because his voice is just amazing in this and he does such a great job in the performance, versus me seeing Jamie Dornan and what he's doing to her in that movie. And so it was just an internal battle in my head, and my sensory perceptions was just
I
off.
had the same thing, and I wrote that in my book, in my review. That's very much what I wrote.
Yeah.
For me, Zachary Weber was Christian before the movies, though, because I heard Gray before.
Right.
But so to me, I kind of picture him. I picture Jamie Dornan as Zachary Weber
with
voice? Jamie Dornan's face.
That sounds
it's
so
very
weird.
confusing, and I did have a hard time. I wish I listened to Darker before I watched the movie. I would have preferred it that way.
Yeah, but oh well. It made me want to go back and watch the movie, so there you go.
Yes, I agree. Me too.
And I just finished Darker like 2 days ago, so it's all fresh in my mind, and I think I might want to watch the DVD this weekend. So thank you for bringing that back to my remembrance. So, but yep, I enjoy all. I follow you, so I know that we are kind of in the same area with the type of books that we listen to, but you named some that I hadn't gotten around to yet. So I've added about four books that you listed to my list. So I'm going to be broke in January. Just everybody know that. Jacques going to be broke because she's going to be out trying to buy audiobooks. So I'm excited though. Now, before we go, Anna, tell everybody how they can find you at Anna's Addict, and also tell us a little bit more about the event next year.
It's Anna actually was taken from 50 Shades of Grey. I started my blog like 6 years ago now, right after the books, before they got big. My blog was based on what to read after 50 Shades of Grey. Now I do about 60% audiobook reviews. The rest are regular book reviews. Sorry, dog, everything. They all came home with dinner. So you can find me at annasattic.com. You could find me on Facebook, Instagram, everything. It's ANASATTIC. You could also, I also do Wicked Book Weekends, which is, this is our 6th year. It's a book signing in Fort Lauderdale, and it's very intimate book signing. We have 50 authors. We have, I'm trying to find some kind of audiobook, something to do at the event, and I haven't really thought of what people are interested in for audio, like to meet narrators. I'm not really sure what to do. So if anybody has any ideas, give me a little message.
Yeah, Anna, I
on
will
things you'd
send
like
you
to
a
see.
message there.
Okay, yeah, because I'm not really sure what to do. I've done 6 years of this, and I've not focused on audiobooks before, and I would really like to more, since that's my focus has gone to audiobooks so much more.
Well, I
we'll
told
connect,
you,
totally.
I would love if you did like a version of The Voice, and it's with authors and narrators. And you kind of push your button if you like that person reading that particular, and it just would be something
We could
kind of
totally do that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Definitely talk to me about that more. Give me,
Okay.
I would love to do that. So it's Wicked Book Weekend. It's on Fort Lauderdale Beach. It's April 20th through 23rd. We do all kinds of things. We do a comedy drag show dinner Friday night. And our signing, we stop the signing in the middle on Saturday and lock the doors, and we all have lunch with the authors.
Nice.
You don't know who you're going to sit with. You don't know. Sorry. It's a surprise. Everybody goes in, and then they have a specific author that sits at the table with them, and they have no idea who they're going to get. And then we all go back. So it's fun. It's different. Where we have actual DOMs come in and do a demonstration.
That sounds fun.
And then Sunday night we have a great boat ride with the bar on board, and on the fair. It's an inland boat ride. So it's a lot.
And what
of
are
fun.
the dates of those again?
It's April 20th through 23rd. And we have an amazing list of authors. It's our 6th year. Like R.K. Lilly, this is her 6th time coming. Tara Sivek, her 6th time coming. Katie Ashley, I think it's her 5th. A lot of authors come back every year to it. T.M. Frazier, this will be her 5th, I think. So Helena Hunting will be there. Sierra Simone. We got some big names coming. Anna Todd. So it's some great names, great people, and it's a very like laid back, relaxed. I don't like crowds, so I don't sell more than 300 tickets. So we keep it. There are no lines. It's more of a hangout than a line up and wait to spend 2 seconds with the author in front of you and walk away. It's more about like hanging out all weekend long.
That sounds fun. Well, everybody, you can make sure if you're following Anna on Anna's Attic, you can find out more about that event as well. It is also posted up, I think, in author events around in that group. And so I'm planning on attending, hopefully. So we'd love to meet you. Listeners, go out, check it out. You get a nice intimate setting with some amazing authors and meet some bloggers. And it's in Florida.
And it's right on the beach.
On the beach. Yeah. Who doesn't want to be in Florida on the beach?
And it's a good weather on April, so.
Oh, yes, perfect weather.
Every room is all oceanfront, so it's a nice place to visit too.
Awesome. Well, thank you for giving us your top 10. Doesn't matter that you didn't put them in any order, because in my mind, I've already made a list. I'm checking it twice, and so we're good to go. We're good to go on that. So thank you so much for participating with us today. All right, so now we're going to move on to a fun chick here, the Enchantress of Books, and Viviana. I'm excited to know what's on your list and see if any ones that you listened to this year made my list. So far, we all have different books on our list, which is what I love. So we haven't,
Yeah.
except for I did match one with Anna a minute ago with uh well, not darker,
Lauren
but the
Blake.
T.M. Frazier books. So
Yeah.
yeah, that made my list. Okay, you got the floor.
Perfect. So I did something. I did them in order because those were the instructions. But I also did it in
So
some.
what you're saying is people who don't follow instructions are what?
No, I love you guys. It's just one of those. I just kind of started writing, and they just kind of fell into place. I'm going, well, yeah, actually, this is the order that I would go from 10 backwards to my favorite. So it's a good thing.
But
But I also
you
what I did is
you get the sound effect. So wait, the crowd is cheering and they're clapping and stuff because yes, you gave me a list.
yeah.
Whatever. I am more like rebels roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
And
rebels.
usually I'm the rebellious one too. So it's just one of those where I think it just landed this way. But I also did. So here's my rebel side of things. In some cases, I didn't just list the one book. I listed the whole series
That's
as an
okay.
awesome
Me
list.
too.
So
You're fine. That's an option.
awesome.
Okay.
Okay. So
Me
my number
too,
10.
because mine were like books 3 and
And 10?
6 and
Exactly. So my number 10 was the Billionaire Builders series by Jennifer Probst. And basically she did was this book, the series was inspired by the twin brothers that are the builders that are on the HBG
Oh, I
site.
love them. Jonathan and
Yeah.
what's his name?
Andrew?
Yeah,
Andrew?
and he's getting married. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I
John's
got
getting
all
married. So
excited.
yeah, I know. And I recently started watching some of their episodes. So now I get it more from
Yeah.
a book perspective than the other
Uh-huh.
way around. But basically these are three brothers that their father owns this company of a builder, and when something happens they have to all work together. Now there's been a family fallout, so they're estranged, and then they have to come together, which is one of the reasons why I love this series was the family dynamics of
Mhm.
having that, the angst and the, not liking each other and how they all come together.
Mhm.
On top of that, the heroines are freaking hilarious. And the dynamics between the hero and the heroine and how they come about at the end of it is just, it's really funny. But again, Jennifer has a great way of telling the story. And the narrators for the whole series are Madeline Mabby and Sebastian York.
Mhm.
That's what I was just going to ask, because I read the first one, but I
Mhm.
wished I listened to it, and I didn't. So
Yeah, no,
I
it's
might go back
definitely
and
a
read the
great
second.
listen.
third.
Yeah. So for her, she has a 2.5 book in there with a 1001 Dark Nights, and
Mhm.
which is one of the side characters. Again, great. And that one's also narrated by Madeline Mabby, but Lance Greenfield.
Mhm.
So there's a bit of a difference there, and it worked. It totally worked. So that's my number 10. My number 9, because Anna broke the rules, so I'm going to break mine too. It was a series. It's all your fault, Anna. It was a series that was.
I'm a rule breaker. I'm sorry.
We're a good group here. It's an awesome group. It's a YA, which I tend to not read because my thinking is been there, done that. on the angst, but it's the Chronicles of Nick by Sherilyn Kenyon, and it's the whole series is narrated by Holton Graham, and her storytelling of what a 16-year-old boy who is a sarcastic, you smart ass is, and then add the PNR side of things, it's just awesome. And then with with Holter
man,
narrating it, woo.
yeah, and Holter does a lot of the Dark Hunter series too, and the way
I
that
never listened to any of those. I loved reading them, though.
yeah, as she crosses Nick over and back, I actually agree with you. Nick does not have a lot of that YA angst because he can't, because everybody knows him from adult Nick.
Yeah.
Adult
and I
Nick.
did it backwards. I did it backwards. I read the YA series even before I brought into the whole her dark series because it's a little intimidating. I think they're in like book 20 at this point in that series, and I'm going, that's a lot to catch up on. And so I started with the YA and fell in love with her writing style. And then now I've actually gone back to read the adults, and where Nick is, I see the Nicks, I'm going, if you only knew. So
right?
I got to see that. I'm going, oh, that's how, yeah. So from a family perspective too, that's a really good book. Still has the romance in there at that level, but nothing that's not appropriate. Series. I think the next book is coming out in audio soon, hopefully. It was indie published, so it's a little different as far as timing, but we're looking forward to it. My number 8, similar to Anna, was anything Lauren Blakely as well. So I want to call out the full package. Yeah, and if you like the sports rom-coms, she has The Most Valuable Player. That was also, and that one's narrated by Zachary Weber.
Playboy. Most Valuable Playboy.
Playboy, yeah, Most Valuable Playboy is awesome. And don't let the title kind of fool you either, because that's, and the blurb a little bit has that, and I'm going, no, he's not really. But it's, again, Zachary Weber. Yeah. And Zachary Weber brings that side of the sarcastic, the cocky, knows it. But again, that vulnerability and sweetness also comes out with Zachary when he narrates, which is one of the reasons why I love him too.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So because we already talked about Complicated from Kristen Ashley, I'm going to break part of the rule again from an older series is her fantasy series, the Fantasy
I like
Land
how
series.
you put the disclaimer in. I'm going to break the rules again, and I'm just going to pick this book from 10 years ago.
Well, because we already talked. Yeah, exactly. So the Fantasy Land series, which was all published in the later end of the year of 2016, is phenomenal. PNR, it is Kristen Ashley, so her books are a little bit longer.
And Tilly Hooper nails it.
Oh, totally. I was just, I mean, I know that.
That's my favorite series, I think.
Yeah. It's just between the different, the heroines being smart, sassy and independent with the males and out true alphas and, from her style, but at the same time, great with the women.
Yeah. And I will say this, my least favorite book, story-wise, was my most favorite audiobook because she just nailed everything in it.
The Golden Dynasty?
Yes.
Yeah, that's book 2 in the series.
Well, the reason why in that one, I think also is because when I read that one, I had to go back to the end of the chapter to read those translations over and over again, and it was hard to read. But as soon as I listened to it, it just worked. You listen to him, it was so much better to listen to.
It was, and it's just one of those where Kristen basically created a new language for these set of individuals, and I could see totally how it would be difficult if it was read versus listened to.
Yeah. That series is the only series of hers that I don't own in ebook. I just own in audio.
Yeah, me too.
And that's the only way. And I re-listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I should add it to my list.
Definitely better.
Yes, totally. And actually, that entire series is actually part of the Audible romance package. So if I know some individuals have signed up for that, but it's definitely worth the credits totally at the same time.
It's also it's $1.99 upgrade, so you don't even need to use a credit on that. You can buy the books. I think some of them are on sale right now. In fact, for $2.99.
That's right. Yes,
and it's $1.99 to upgrade to Whisper Sync.
What's the series called again?
Fantasyland.
Okay.
Oh, I love that series. I know it's awesome.
I'm all on it.
Too. I will say, even my problems with book 2, the narration just knocks it out of the park. That I kind of forget my problems.
Yeah,
but, I mean, I know what your problems are with that.
Yeah, me too,
pretty much everybody's problem, and they're understandable. But the narration, just everything about it, I loved.
Yeah. So, do you think I'm gonna have a problem? Am I gonna have a call, and we're gonna have to talk about what I'm having a problem?
I think that while you're listening to it, you might be like, what the? And then you go, so you'll text us saying, really? This is why this is your favorite? And then when you get to that other point, you're going to be like, okay. I got it.
Yeah, and you can totally call me while you're listening to it, and I'll be like, yeah, just wait.
Just wait. Yeah.
Okay. I'm all on it now. Okay, thanks.
Totally worth it. So my number 6 is Michael's Wing, which is a set of novellas from the original Sinners collection by Tiffany Rice.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so I totally crush on her, and she knows it too. I love Tiffany. Her writing style is just smart, and she has this gift with storytelling and the way that she, the the words that she selects, as well as the character development,
Mm-hmm.
you just, I mean, in this case, for this series, it is BDSM, but you can take that out and you still have a great story. You add that back in, you still have a great story. And so in this case, for Michael's Wings, it's about the two characters so this is an LGBT MM set of novellas with some of the, I think Michael was part of book 2 in the original series, but technically these are also side characters. They're all part of so they're referenced. Definitely something that a series you may want to wait until years is awesome, so you need to get it anyways. The who's speaking part, and with her storytelling just brings all the books all together. My number 5, and this is probably where I'm going to get a letter like, what do you mean? Is the thought book. How do you mean? I'm like, what? I haven't read anything.
I haven't either.
I always get the dirty looks. Like, how could you not have read anything? And so, one of my best friends, also book blogger,
I have.
Yeah, and had been narrating, and between you and Kelly from Books and Kisses, we're both like, what are you waiting for? So I was able to review it, and I loved it. It's narrated by Angela Daw, and man, can that girl do voices.
Angela freaking Daw.
Exactly.
Get the name right.
Yeah, Angela freaking Daw. I mean, she has this a stretch of voice where she does the sweet girl and the women and the kids, and then the rough males, and it's like totally crushing on the guy voice, and you're going, oh, that's right, it's Angela. Duh. So again, awesome. If I'm starting to read the side series, and she narrates the whole series, so that's also good from a consistency perspective. But it's a great world building from a PNR perspective, and I did not get lost because this is technically like a spin-off from her Side Changeling series. I was a little concerned that I get lost, but I was not. Nandini does a phenomenal job with keeping you in the loop. So, and my number 4 was I think I just finished second. Yeah, it's like a recent listen to me. It's Sweet Tea and Sympathy by Molly Hopper, narrated by Amanda Ronconi. And oh my God, it's hysterical. It is hysterical. This is a new series for her called Southern Electric. Mm-hmm. And it is basically a situation where we have a woman from Chicago that is, city girl, typical, that has to go down south and has a little bit of a culture shock when it comes down to the family dynamics as well as small town living. And so I don't know if you guys have ever seen the YouTube channel called, it's called like Shit What Southern Women Say.
Yes.
And yeah, I love that channel. It's hilarious. And those little Southern nuances and sayings that, and Molly is totally gifted in
this. Is this the one where she's like a party planner or something?
Yes.
In it?
Yeah.
Okay. I actually have that on my wish list.
Yeah, it's great. I was given the book to review, and I started reading it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to wait for the audio, just because I know how awesome Amanda narrates her. Yeah, Amanda narrates her books, and it's a perfect match.
And I'm just going to say this, as a small town Southern woman, and I am, the town I grew up in until I was 17 had less than 1,000 people in it. She nails it.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's nothing disrespectful. Yeah, it's great. I know the next book's coming out next year, but there's also a novella that's includes 2 characters that are in this one, so it's like a prequel, and I'm still getting it as soon as we probably hang up here.
I already listened to it and read it. It's completely hilarious.
Okay, great. I mean, it's a great character. So.
Save a redneck, ride a truck.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was an Audible romance package.
Yeah, I know sometimes people are hesitant to find using their credits for novellas. I totally get it. But this is one definitely. Molly's writing is definitely one that's worth it, especially with her.
Sweet Tea and Sympathy isn't a novella, is it?
No, it's not. No, that's not. Okay. But I was talking about her, the prequel, which is a novella.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's not part of the romance package, but it's so worth the credit. I mean, like, I automatically clicked it, and got it.
Okay.
So it's so worth it. And my number 3 is a series. It's called The Cake Series by Jay Benston. I'm probably killing the last name. And this is a new to me author. I'm part of a Facebook group that is all about audiobooks, and they kept on mentioning cake, 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 cake. I'm like, what? What flavor is it? Damn it! But it isn't. It's a contemporary romance, and it kind of says that it's about a rock star. So a lot of people, I think, fall for the whole rock star idea of it, but it really isn't. It's just part of a job kind of thing, like a career. It's not the life and living of a rock star. So don't let that fool you. So the series itself is called The Cake Series. The first book called Cake. And that was, that came out last year, but that one was narrated by Joe Ardent and Andy Arndt. Great story, great characters. Family dynamic on this one, again, is another big one. They have a big family, and which is where the other books are falling into play as to who the main characters are. And the love of the siblings is something that kind of got to me as far as like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be. I'm texting my brother and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you want?
Not quite working out the same way.
Not I want it, but hey, but again, it goes back to the whole family dynamic, and they have that similar relationship where if you text them that way, they might reply that, but if you need them, they will drop what they're doing and be by your side. The second book, called The Theory of Second Best, is one that totally nailed it for me as far as one of my favorites this year, and that one was narrated by Zachary Weber and Andy Arndt. And the second best, as it implies, in this case, he is the main character is the brother of the rock star. And basically it's always like he's second. So, well, I can't get the rock star, so you'll do kind of, scenario. And how do you go about that? And for me, it was about self-discovery as well for both the male and the female characters. Little angst, which is another thing that I liked about this series so far. I still have to read the third book, which is Fiercely Emma. That came out recently, but I haven't had a chance to get it yet. But enough that I wanna get it and use the credit on it. So it's a great series, great characters.
The first two are in the romance package, and that one isn't, which means it'll probably be in it eventually.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just one of those, like, so many books, not enough time. And I'm the one who listens to it while at the day job and doing stuff at home. So I do have a bit more time, but still not enough. Too many books. But it's definitely something that if you like family dynamics, sarcastic characters, Kyle in this book is smart ass sarcastic too, so it's a great. I kind of like those in guys. I'm seeing a little trend here.
I just grabbed
There's a
that
pattern.
one. It's funny. I've looked at that book so many times, but it has the same cover image as another book I read, so I, for some reason, just avoided it.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing, and that's a totally different conversation about the importance of covers, because I had the exact same issue, and that's why I didn't pick it up earlier in the year, or even when it first came out, was that exact same issue, was a cover. But now that I know better and I listen to it, totally recommend the whole series, and the narrators do a great job with it. Yep. My number 2 is Mercy by Deborah Anastasia. That one's narrated by Muffy Newtown and Zachary Weber. Woohoo. So if you've seen the cover, it's really, I loved it. It was unique in the two colors, black and teal, and it's basically a guy's back and he's completely tattooed. And the blurb gives you some information, and there's just so much more to it.
I love Deborah.
This is the first time for me read of hers. So I've joined her reader book. I'm waiting for her hopefully the next book of Animal, which is should be part of the series. But I'm wanting to catch up on her other books. So again, it kind of tells you what kind of author, as from a storytelling perspective, is. These two characters were unique and had enough differences and similarities that you can see why they work together. And just again, it's the blurb says one thing, and basically it's like he's a mercenary killer, but there's just so much more to that. He's just not killing guys. It's the story really that makes it between the two of them. And Zachary, again, shines in this because we have a character here that is technically a cold-blooded killer, killer for hire. And yet you want to give him a hug and tell him that everything will be fine. And, and I love you, even though this is your day job. And I will be with you regardless of it. Just make sure that we have bulletproof glass. and everything. And that's what Zachary brings to the character, is that vulnerability, but still has the point where you really want to hear him say anything, especially on the sexy times when it comes down to
the sexy times.
the sexy times. And that's again a testament to his diversity as far as how he performs, is that he can do that tough alpha, come here, get on your knees kind of thing, and then still give you that sweet moment of, oh, I want to buy her roses.
Yeah.
And again, it's a great, it was a new to me author, and Muffy has been a new to me, I'm following her, not everywhere, narrator, and I'm finding that I love how she performs her
She's
heroine.
awesome.
Is, and oh my God, the way that she does the guys.
Oh my God.
I'm
Okay.
like, damn, girl.
Yes.
Come here.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my God. When you get off of this, go to my page on the Audio Flow, and last year or earlier this year, when I fell in love with her, I was like, I can listen to her narrate a bottle of ketchup with just reading the ingredients, and she did it. So she narrates the ingredients to the ketchup bottle in both
Awesome.
voices, and I was like, ketchup is the new whipped cream. Let's just say that.
Well, she has this thing where she gets down an octave and she
Yes,
gives us sexiness, and then
it
like I'm
just
going, damn,
works.
yeah,
Right.
and
I had to tune out for a second. What narrator are you talking about?
A Muffy
it is,
Newtown.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, and again, it's just the I don't get confused as to who's the character that's speaking at the moment with her. Her performance is, if it's a spunky, everything's like awesome kind of girl, she performs that, and if it's the I need my ice cream because he's an ass,
Yeah.
she goes there, and again, and then the guy, I'm like, come here, get on your knees, yes sir, I mean Muffy, yeah.
Right.
It is, yeah. And so my number one is a series by Danica Dark, narrated by Nicole Poole, and the series is called the Crossbreed series. I love everything Danica Dark. I've read all 3 of her series, and this is her third one. That is, the next book's coming out next year, so I'm eagerly waiting for it. And it's PNR/fantasy because she tends to blur the lines and not follow those rules. But this one definitely falls more under the fantasy, because while there is romance, it's not the lead factor.
Mm-hmm.
And her storytelling, but what I love the most about this series, as well as her other ones, is her world building. Mm-hmm. You want to move to where these people are. You want to be able to have coffee or, tea with them and talk about the fact that they're shifters or how cool their power is. So with this PNR, it's a different twist to how we are normally in the know of what a vampire is, or what a shifter werewolf is, or, what a mage are. In this case, the Crossbreed series has a lot of those characters from her previous series from a breed perspective. Mm-hmm. So you have a vampire, you have shifters, you have Mageries, and again, world building. Nicole Poole is phenomenal. She gives each character their own unique voices and tones, accents. I'm in love with her Simon, who's British, and Christian, who's Irish, and she knows it. I actually have stuff on my phone with her saying my name in those characters.
Nice.
I will say this. So I've never read Danica before, and I started with the Crossbreed series. I finished book 1 a couple of days ago, and I did not feel lost, even though I had not read her before.
That's good.
So if you feel like you can't, you can start with that if you want to.
Yeah. So this is technically, this is a spin-off from her 2 previous, because one of the characters, we know him from the first. You're right. It's a completely different series in itself, and you do not get totally lost at all. And even if you pick it up in book 3 or book 2, you won't get lost. But I highly recommend that you just start from book 1. It's worth it.
I'm writing it down. I'm following her too, and I'm pretty sure I have some of her books on my never-ending TBR list that seems to grow. Whoever finishes that, it's like 800 books on there. Like,
yeah, no,
never.
We'll never finish it. We'll die, and that list will go on.
Exactly.
But that's the point. you want to have too much to read, not enough to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm. I
that
will say
sounds
that
good.
regardless of what I'm listening or reading, as soon as her book comes out, well, okay, so I'm lying because I get her ARCs from a book perspective, not her audiobooks. But as soon as that book comes out, especially the audio, everything else stops from an audiobook perspective. I grab the audio and I start and until I'm done with listening to it. She's just that good, both the author and the narrator.
Well, that's a good combination when
Yeah,
there's
it's a great
good writing and a good narrator. Because
compliment.
one without the other, it's just not a good look, unfortunately. But
And
okay, so now I have a never-ending audiobook list going here. So thank you guys very much for that. And so I I did put mine in some type of order, and the funny part is a lot of them made my top 15 list from this summer. So that ought to tell you that I didn't really listen to as many books as I thought I did. But probably like Anna, I listened to some stuff that was a little bit older. So, but I tried to keep up with the books that came out this year. So my number 10 audiobook is actually New Adult PNR, and it is um, called Vernal, and the other book is, and this is good that Randy Cooley Wilson always names her books in Latin or something. And I'm not good with Latin. So I think she said the name of the book is Aquies. That's what I'm going with. And this was my first listen or and read into gargoyles. I had no idea about I had never read any or listened to any gargoyle paranormal books, and it's the Royal Protector Academy, and the narrators are Katie McAble and Lorenzo Matthews. I did have both of them on my podcast a couple weeks ago to talk about book 3 that's coming out, and what a fantastic job of just, again, we all love strong characters, especially female heroines, and the main character Serena is a princess who hates being called princess, and she's all about protecting her people and her kingdom, and she kind of falls in love with somebody who is he's a nymph. And yeah, so along with some other stuff in there I can't tell you, but I really enjoyed the book. I love the concept, I loved the chemistry, and it's a dual narration, but I love how both of them can play off each other, and it didn't sound like there were two different attitudes of the characters, which is what I hate when there's a dual narration, and um, uh, when one person sounds like they have an attitude and the other person doesn't, and it doesn't match. So this matched very well. So if you guys have never read or listened to a book that deals with gargoyles, I recommend it as number 10. My number 9 book, okay, so I skipped around a lot this year. I listened to my first historical romance book, and and this book is by Barbara Goss. So my number 9 book is called Shadow of Regret. It's the Shadow series, and it's written by Barbara Goss. It is my first listen for historical romance, but it's historical Christian or inspirational. So it's a little bit different. It's not like, steamy romance, but there's some good romance and situations in there. And it is narrated by Tom Jordan. And this series was his first, and he did such a good job with it. That I fell in love with the entire series. And not only that, it gives you things to really think about in your own life, about things that you've had in your past that you might hold as a regret, and how to recover and heal and move on from that. And so that's what I took away from that particular book. Shadow of Regret was my favorite one. My number 8 book is Warrior, which is a YA book. So I've got a YA book in there too, you guys. And it is written by Karen Lynch and narrated by Zachary Weber. And this book is Warrior is told from Nicholas's point of view. So there's 3 books prior to this one. and it's in the Relentless series. And so this is his point of view, and it deals with vampires, and there's a little bit of fae. It's actually considered urban fantasy, that takes place, I think, on the East Coast, like in Portland, Maine, or something like that. And he
Mhm.
does such a good job. I mean, he's got a English accent in there from one of the characters, and it is so. Did you hear the sigh? Okay, that's all I
Yeah,
need to
there's a
know.
sigh. Wow.
He did the sigh, and plus the main character, it has a hint of Russian. He's Russian, so he's got a hint of a Russian accent in there throughout the book. So if you just want to hear Zachary Weber do Russian and British, and I think a little bit of Irish, then you want. Oh, he does. There's some Irish in there too.
He does
So
great accents.
he does really good, and I had a chance to chat with him, and he said I can do accents very well, and he just starts talking, and I'm like, well,
I
just
saw. Yeah, I listened to that. It's
you could
awesome.
just keep doing it. I don't care what you're talking about. I don't even just talk.
Just talk.
But yeah, it's kind of fun just listening to him talk. So my number 7 book is again Preppy Part 3. And I just picked the third book because again, I love the whole series, all of Preppies, but the last one was so good because it gave me what I wanted. And T.M. Frazier is just really good about giving us stories that you don't expect to happen. Just a whole lot of
Mhm.
stuff just happens in it, and you're like, I can't believe that happened. And we already talked about who it was narrated by. Lance again does a fantastic job. He earns a golden mic from me because those moments when he was talking about things he went through with his mother and his childhood, and things that happened to him, and the whole recovery from. Anyway, not to tell everybody what happened, but he was able to really dive into the character, and I felt all those emotions, and that's to me what a good narrator does, is you can feel those
Mhm.
emotions, and I felt them, and they were painful, but he did such a good job. Number 6 is Kate Canterbury's Restored and Preservation. This was narrated by Lucy Rivers and Christian Fox, and I think Preservation, let me go back. Preservation was Sam and Teal's story, and I think, or is it Restored? Oh gosh, I get them mixed up. It's one of those. Wait, Restored. That's the one with Sam and Teal. And now the reason why I love this story so much is because, in case anybody didn't know, Sam is diabetic. I'm diabetic, and a lot of the things that he faced in this book, I've faced, and so I really connect with books that I can relate to, and I can relate to Teal, some things that happened to her in the story. So that entire book just really captured my heart. And again, Christian Fox just doing anything in audiobooks makes me feel good. Um, and this has that family dynamic, Viviana, that you like. It's a
Mhm.
big family of people, and they do preservation with
This is the
historical.
Walsh series,
The
right?
Walsh series, yes. and,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I read a
yeah,
couple of them.
yeah, and each one of the stories just basically you see how this big family operates and how they really care about each other, very loyal, but then they're just so big when they have those family meetings and they're sitting there and they're just talking, everybody's talking over everybody. But you can tell who's talking because Christian Fox does such a good job with letting you know who's differentiating between the characters. And he does I think Nick has a southern accent. His Nick accent is on point. And plus, I have a big crush on Lucy Rivers, and I will listen to anything she does and says. But
I,
I love the
I
I
think the
love.
first one in the series was on my favorite list in 2016.
Oh yeah,
So it was a great series.
it is a great series, and I'm like, okay, is there gonna be anything else? I heard a rumor that there might be more of the washes. I don't know. But after I got Rizdy's story, I was really happy about that. He was one of my favorite characters next to Sam. And I was really happy with the way she wrote it and the narration on it. I don't know what number I'm on, but the next book is one that I just listened to by Pam Godwin. It's called One is a Promise, and it is narrated by Lisa Zimmerman. I have never heard of Lisa Zimmerman before. I did I do read Pam's books, but I just decided that I would pick up this narration, and she Lisa is fantastic. I'm on the second book, and she's done um, a Russian accent, Italian. I think the other one was like Dutch and something else. Her male narration is on point. She's doing the male and the female dialogue in the entire series, and wow, the story is one of those books that it has a lot of twists in it. There is a triangle, but it's not a traditional triangle. I'll just leave it at that. If you guys have not listened to Pam Godwin yet, I would start with that book. She also writes paranormal, so they aren't on audio yet, but I'm on this series now, and it made my list, so that ought to tell you something.
Got it.
Okay, this one, I Can't Make This Up by Kevin Hart. So, I kept seeing this book recommended, of course, on Audible. It kept popping up. You on there looking at books, and it kept saying Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart. So I picked up the book. It's like 20 something hours long. But what I enjoyed about it, one is that he's narrating it himself, and he's
Mhm.
so funny that it's kind of off scripted. So it's not just like him reading from his book. You've got all of his comedic timing in there, him being Kevin Hart. And the thing about the book is it really talks about where you come from and how hard you work to get where you want to be. And he wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His his mom wasn't even happy that she was pregnant with him. He talks about his dad. I mean, he went through a really interesting childhood. But it talks about how he became who he is, and he's very humble in this book. And I got a lot out of it. So, just being in this space that we're in, and we always want to be encouraged with what we're doing, this book definitely kept me encouraged and laughing at the same time, which is, I like to laugh. Okay.
Sounds
You got to get it. It's such a good book, but it's like darker for me. Like I couldn't
really
listen
good.
to it all
I
in
like
like 2 days. It took me a while.
comedian memoir kind of book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's not self-help, but it helped me. So, but it's funny. And if you like comedy, if you like Kevin Hart, you'd enjoy this book. Okay, so the next book on my list is Taking Turns by
Mhm.
J.A. Huss. Oh my God. So the reason why this book made my list because the cast is freaking awesome. So you've got Tad Branson, Ava Erickson, Joe Arden, and Sebastian York, and you get each one of
I
them.
read that
You read? Oh my God! Please
one.
listen to the audiobook. Oh my freaking
Yeah, I read it. I'm
goodness!
definitely now I'm going to listen to it now that I see who's on it.
Oh
Wow.
It's
my
on my list, and I keep like, should I? Shouldn't I? Shouldn't I? Because
yes,
it's a cast,
yes,
and I listen to a
yes,
huge cast.
yes. Let me tell
Okay.
you why. Let me tell you why. Okay, in tradition of Julie Huss, she has these stories that give you a nice mind effing, right? So we know this.
Mhm.
And so this is no different. It's not 321, which made my number one list last year. But the way that they cast this book is that each one of these characters, they perform their roles so well that I couldn't picture anybody, I could not imagine anybody else with these roles. So Joe Arden, his character sounds like kind of this, I don't know, this jerky guy. And when you listen to Joe when he does his narration, that's kind of how his voice is. It's kind of like, yeah, I do this, blah blah blah. I don't care. I don't give a blank. And this is the same guy that his character is. Then you have Tad, who's kind of more of the romantic, he kind of goes along with everybody. Then you have Ava Erickson, who plays the female character, and you'll find out more about her later. And then you have Sebastian York, who gives us that cocky, dramatic guy who has this really dry, non existent sense of humor. And he's really dominant. So if you put all of that together in this book, oh my God, that's all I gotta say. I listened to it in one day just because, yeah, it was very juicy.
So this
So
is I'm looking it up on Audible right now, and it sees that there's 3 books. Is it
yeah,
one of those where
it's the
it's a
first one.
continuation?
Yes.
Right.
So each one of
So
them gets to take their turn, I guess.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
and the
technically a cliffhanger in between the books.
there wasn't technically a cliffhanger at the end of the book. You kind of already know that it's going to go on and take over for the next person.
Okay.
It wasn't one of those cliffhangers where you're like, oh God, I'm going to stab myself because they left me hanging. But the good part is they're out, so of course you don't have to wait. But taking turns definitely
It's
sets the
funny.
stage.
I'm looking at my review for the first one,
Uh-huh.
and I wrote I will be grabbing the next one on release day, and I didn't. So
You,
Too many books, not enough time.
well,
yeah, so I
you
think
know
I'm gonna listen.
why?
I wonder if I could just jump into and listen to the second one, or if I have to
Well,
re-listen to the first.
I don't know. Well, the reason why I didn't get the second one yet, or if I'm gonna get it, is because I like the narrators in the first one,
Oh,
and
they're not the same.
it's not the same. It's not this. Yeah, some of the
No,
narrators, the male
one of them is
narrators are
missing.
the same. One of the yeah, there's a different female narrator in the
Hmm.
next book. So I didn't get it just because it didn't make it to the list yet. I
Got
probably will, but I'm a big Ava Erickson fan. So anytime I can see Ava, I can listen to Ava first. I'm always gonna get her, and I'll just wait for the other people in Julie's books. That sounds bad. I probably should have phrased that differently, but the first book was amazing.
Yeah, but it again
And the
goes back to
third
the
one comes out the
consistency.
day after Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, see, there you
Yeah.
go.
But
Yeah,
again, it kind of goes back to the importance of having consistency with the narrators.
yeah.
It could
But
totally turn off a reader in
yeah,
a
and
series.
I think the only reason why sometimes people switch is because it's a different character, and they want the next character to have a different voice. So maybe that could be why
Yep.
they went with somebody else, or it and I think that's what it is, because I think the female is a different person, so they just went with a different cast. Okay, so I've got 2 left, I think. All right, so Priest. Priest is number whatever number I'm on, because it's Priest and it's Jacob
Hey,
Morgan.
you made it for 2007. Oh, did it come out on audio in 2017?
It came out on audio in 2017. So that's the way I got to sneak that in, because I was like, I know this book came out last year, but the audio came out this year. And OMG, because I didn't read the book, I had no idea what it was about.
Oh,
Um,
I lost you.
yeah, everybody was like, "Oh, you've got to listen to it or you've got to read it," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure, why not?" And it definitely took me to Tingletown a lot, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, every time I pass a church or I go to church or something, I'm like, I should not be thinking about this book, and yeah, so there's a lot of praying going on in church, and you guys already know about it, but just imagine Jacob Morgan's voice, and I think also um Elena Wolf had a stint in there. It was very small, but Jacob
Sorry,
Morgan was
someone's at
pretty
my door.
much throughout the whole book. And so you guys listened to it though, right?
I read
So
it. I didn't listen.
okay, so and I'm in the minority in that it was a DNF for me on an audio perspective, and it was
I
hard because I love Jacob Morgan and then a Wolf, but to me there was some stuff lacking from a story perspective. I mean, I needed more, and I wasn't getting it, and it's just one of those where I can shot and listen to it again because I know that we have similar, but I couldn't.
but I will tell you why this made my list. And like I said, there are books that make my
Mm-hmm.
list because I identify with it. So the thing everybody knows pretty much, he's a priest, he's a young guy. I was also in ministry, and this is this is the way that I went with this book, is that he joined the priesthood not so much because he wanted to be a priest. That wasn't why he joined. And so he had
Mhm.
this internal conflict between, can I serve God but still have but having a relationship with this woman, and which one of them is going to win? So to me, I took it from that perspective. There's a battle, and so many people find themselves in that same battle where it's, am I not going to be true to God or my religion if I choose love instead? And so that's where I went with this story, because later
Mhm.
on he, again, I'm spoiler if you didn't read it or listen to it, he finds out that he can still do God's work and not be a priest and still have the relationship aspect with the woman. So that's kind of why I loved the book. I mean, and the sex part was good, but I just got some other stuff out of it that related to me personally.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why that
I
worked for
felt like
me.
it was missing some character depth.
Same.
You know,
Yeah.
it was hot, but it was missing some, like, and I was always suspicious of Poppy the whole time.
Yeah.
Like what's behind all this? I never really felt like I understood her.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, see, I
But
guess from
you
my
know, I
perspective,
know I loved it, and it was really hot.
yeah, but I guess from my perspective, she was just like, she was a secondary, and that happens sometimes. She wasn't the main. To me, she wasn't the main goal of the book. She was there. I mean, she was part of the relationship, but I was more focused on him just because I was seeing it from the part of being in ministry, since that was my background. So, I mean, yeah, I get that. She didn't have a whole part. And even though Elena Wolf was narrating, I was like, I didn't even think that part was necessary. I mean, it was like a minute or 2 minutes, but anyway, it still made my list just for that reason. And because, there was some things that happened in church that, just happened in church. Okay. But okay, so my last book, and I have an honorable mention,
Mm.
but my last book is West, and this book is also urban fantasy. It is written by my favorite author, Stacey Marie Brown, and is narrated by Aaron Shedlock. It is book 9. It's book 9 in a continual series. And the thing that I love about this story first is I've been a part of that particular series since it started a year and a half ago. And Aaron Shetlock is one of my favorite male narrators. His notoriety has built up a lot in the last probably 6 to 8 months. And he was able to really take this character and flex his narrating muscles with, let's see, he did 3 dialects of Irish. He is Irish, part Irish. He did Southern, because he is Southern. He also did a couple of Scottish and something else. And he did all of that in this book, and he totally nailed it. And right now, that book has all 5-star ratings. And it's just one of my favorite books. It's my favorite book. I just can't say enough about it. I would tell you guys to just listen to it and skip all the other books. You don't need it, but you kind of do. But if you just want to hear how fantastic this book is, I recommend it. Cindy Marie, I made
Mhm.
her get it, and she was like, well, I'm just gonna listen to the whole series. So she binged the whole series and got to West, and it is one of her favorite too, and she absolutely loves it. Agrees with me that Aaron did a excellent job. So um that is my top 10. Honorable mention is King of Code by C.D. Reese, narrated by Christian Fox. I will say the story was a little bit different, but I will say, as far as audiobooks go, I love that it gave me the feeling of like an old radio drama. It was very
Mm, okay.
different. I usually don't like books with like sound effects or music or anything like that. And they did a little something like that to indicate the next chapter. It was kind of dark, but it was very well done for an audiobook. So that would be my honorable mention for 2017.
Awesome.
And there you have it. There you have it, everybody. We chat with you for an hour and 46 minutes about the fantastic books the top 10.
Oops.
The
We
top.
went a little long.
That's
Sorry.
okay. We'll have to edit anyway. The top 40 books of 2017, 50, 10, 5, 10, because no, 3 of y'all for me. Okay, yeah, top 40. I can't add right now. Of 2017, and we would love to know what your top books were for 2017. Drop us a line. Go by and visit us on Facebook or Twitter or what have you, so that we'll know what you listen to, what you recommend. And before we go, Viviana, I didn't have you tell everybody where to find you. Should we just Google you too, and you'll just pop up everywhere?
Well, again, with the blog name Enchantress of Books, and with my my own name Viviana, it tends to be pretty unique, so I tend to come up. So yeah, just Google me. I mean, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm starting to be better at Instagram. I mean, I have them all. It's just the time to do it.
Yeah.
And also my blog, and I also own Enchantress Design and Promo, which I work with authors, their marketing strategy, graphic design work, social media stuff. So, and I'm also working with narrators now as well to help them be more noticed and aware.
All right. Sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for joining me for this episode. I can't wait to see what 2018 brings us. And maybe we should chat again midway through the year and see what our top books are, like for the summer, like summer listens or something we should do. What do you think?
Nope.
Oh,
That's a great
love
idea.
to.
I'll do it.
Yeah, yes, perfect.
Yep.
We'll set, and then I'll make sure I'm somewhere where I can actually have an adult beverage. Yeah, that's definitely needed. All right, ladies. Well, happy New Year to you. This is December 31st, so 2017 is done. We're going to be counting down here in a little bit, and if I don't talk to you, have a happy New Year and stay safe. Thank you so much for listening to the audio flow as we counted down the top 10 audiobooks of 2017. Now you can take advantage of these great books if you are not a member of Audible. Visit www.audibletrial.com/the audio flow to sign up for your free 30-day trial membership and your free audiobook. Thanks so much and Happy New Year.